All right. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everybody. I want to thank each and every one of you. Oh my gosh, for those watching on YouTube, I was about to grab my glasses out of habit, but I don't have them on today. Um, so I want to thank each and every one of you for your patience, particularly those on the public side, and for those that really want to join the Patreon, but because of your, your situation, as many of you have told me, cannot. From the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. Before we get into the news, couple things I want to bring up. We're going to be doing a very quick show update because a lot of things have happened in the last couple weeks that have really brought the show to that next level. Thanks to you guys, thanks to the members, thanks to, again, a combination of many different things. So I truly cannot take all or even a chunk of the credit. It's been a collective effort, truly. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. I promise very soon we will be doing a live stream Patreon giveaway for some people to be able to join the Patreon with a giveaway prize or something like this. Just a way of sort of giving back to you folks on the public side is the very least I can do. Now, let me just explain that again. I know the last couple weeks the Krakens have not been consistent as much as they should have been. I'd like to formally apologize because if I don't, it doesn't make me any better than CNN or whatever, right? Point being, the evening before, I had a fantastic weekend for both members and the public, which was supposed to be this past weekend, lined up for all of you. I got sick. Now, let me just say, I don't know if it was COVID, a flu, a bug. Please forgive me for sounding gross, but I just want to give you guys an idea. I had the whole gambit: aching bones, chills, vomit, sore throat, ears, the fever, feeling hot, all of this. So I'm still not 100%. I want to say very quickly, this is not medical advice the same way that you got to say, this, if you're not a financial advisor, this is not financial advice, but a friendly suggestion for those that, whether you're at work, you're at home, you feel a cold coming on. Saline nasal spray. I don't mean to put words in his mouth if he didn't say this precisely, but I'm trying to follow I was trying to follow the guidelines of Dr. Peter McCullough, who said, if I'm not mistaken, every 30 to 60 minutes of your waking hours, you do the saline nasal spray. So I woke up from a nap Friday, and I was so excited because Saturday we were going to do all this content for the members and the public. Then I started feeling sick with my throat and all that. Right away, go for the nasal spray, vitamin D, vitamin C, B12, zinc, and I dare to say I shaved 2 to 3 days off of what would have been simply by catching it early in that way. Just friendly advice to you folks. Again, these are all things you can buy at the pharmacy. You don't need a prescription. I don't want to say it's advice or a suggestion. Just, that's what worked for me. Let's put it that way. Now, the next thing. The reason I'm going to bring this up again, patreon.com/GenerationZ, is because for those that are members, you'll know for the past couple weeks now, even more so probably, that we have some big time guests coming on, and they're not just, of course, Lou Elizondo, Sean Cahill, these are big time people, but not just individuals within the UFO, paranormal, scientific intelligence community. I don't want to say the names yet. There's a bit of a sneak peek preview and all that on the Patreon and what have you, but I need to be very careful, specifically because we're taking some leaps in terms of doing our best to push for the truth. And I know, I guess that means a little something different to everyone, but I'm trying to collectively aggregate that and bring all of it together for you folks. And yes, are we going to take risks in terms of pushing against some super powerful, shady people? Hell yeah, because nobody else is doing it. So again, as I say, for those that say, Dave, well, Patreon, they're connected with the folks at YouTube. How do you do it? Dropbox shareable links. Again, please, patreon.com/GenerationZ. You don't even need to be signed up to the highest tier to get a glimpse of any of what I'm speaking on. But anyways, let's jump into the Kraken. So today is April 20th. Is today Tuesday or Wednesday? Oh my God, today's Wednesday, I believe. Yeah, Wednesday, April 20th, 2022. And let me just say that I went through all the mainstream media outlets around the world right now. It's all fear-mongering, guys. So what I've done essentially is, at least in my opinion it is, so what I've done is use process of elimination to catch up on the last 7 days of news that we have missed on this end of the show here. Again, cannot thank you folks enough, but let's jump into it. Let me just make sure that I'm recording, okay, because I thought I clicked start recording like half an hour ago. I ended up yapping and didn't record a thing. So yes, for those that ask, it does happen to me too at times. So anyways, first and foremost, Alex Jones we'll get to the Twitter thing with Elon Musk. We'll get it all. We'll touch it all. No, Jesus, wow, that sounded terrible. We'll address all of it. Sorry. Okay, first and foremost, Alex Jones's InfoWars files for bankruptcy for the Southern District of Texas following the Sandy Hook lawsuits, according to court documents. Let me just say, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know specifically how such bankruptcy filings work with respects to precise developments of certain situations. And I say it in this regard. As I understand it, and again, I'm not a lawyer, this is just my take, I could be very incorrect. If, at least within the West, if you open a business as a sole proprietor, you are then linking that business's affairs and dealings and credit to your personal credit. But if you open a business as an LLC or a corporation, I'm sure many of you watching or listening probably know even more or better than myself in this case. And for those that want to comment on YouTube, please feel free. Apparently, if you open up a full-on LLC, the entity of that business is separate from your personal credit, all of this. And to be fair, I got to be careful as well because I don't want YouTube to nick me for talking about taxes that are just on the books and talking about the ones that are off the books. But anyways, point being is that because there's really some cheap parlor tricks that are used. I'm nobody special to know this stuff. It's just, again, I'm sure many of you know the tricks used too. Point being is that essentially, filing for bankruptcy has been used as a strategy in many business affairs. I don't know what to make of this. Unless I get to speak to Alex Jones myself, it's pure speculation. And I really do mean that in a very sincere way. I wish I could follow up with you folks more. You know, we can correlate this possibly to when 50 Cent claimed bankruptcy. Some argue he never really did. It was just so that he did not have to file or pay out someone in court or something like this. To make a very quick organized crime correlation, organized crime bosses, as I understand it, at least back in the day, never had anything under their name in a legal sense, because if they ever got sued or arrested, their assets couldn't be freezed because they didn't have any. They had their assets under other people's names. And the question becomes, well, Dave, okay, what's to stop that person whose name your assets are under from just screwing you and running off? And that's when, again, the fear of organized crime would probably come in. But just to give you all the different perspectives, as I understand it, that's how it normally would work. So I wish I could give you more info, folks. For those that may have more, I simply haven't had the time to delve into it. I caught some of what Alex was saying on his show about that, clarifying the headlines and all of this, but I'm right now, I'm still in the middle of sifting through all of it, so excuse me. The next thing is that scientists now want to inject mRNA, the same tech used for the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, into heart attack patients. I'm going to be honest with you folks, I don't necessarily have an issue with mRNA in my humble opinion. Dare I say maybe I have an issue with its initial development relative to the individuals developing it. But I can't help but think this is an overt headline to push a particular narrative to drive more division. It's not so much about the tech. If it was about the tech, it would have been brought out by now. That's just my take, but I could be wrong. The next thing is that the White House announces a second global COVID summit on May 12th, aiming to, quote, bring solutions to vaccinate the world for everyone, everywhere, end quote. I'm going to leave that there. Make of that as you will, and I truly mean that. It's not fair for me to say, oh, look, they're trying to fearmonger and scare you, or they're truly trying to help. Again, we're not trying to tell you what to think. We're trying to help you folks think, and at the same time, I need you folks to help me think too, and I really do mean that. Just because I'm the one behind the microphone doesn't mean that I'm the I'm a special person or anything like that. I'm just as equal as you guys. So again, the next thing is that a U.S. federal judge, has declared the CDC's mask mandate for planes and trains unlawful. You want my opinion? Thank you. That's my personal opinion. That does not mean I'm right and you're wrong if you have a different view. But I know you folks like to hear my opinion, so I agree with this. Yeah, I really do think it was pushing it way too much. So, again, the next thing is that Amazon agreed to perform a racial audit, according to Bloomberg. I'm not trying to play dumb. I'm not trying to be funny. I don't know what a racial audit is, and I guess maybe to see if there's been harassment to people of color in the workplace, and if that's the case, assuming the process is legitimate and, civil and all of this, so be it, fair. Again, I look at it as human on human, not color on color, but again, we've been through this. So the next thing is that China has signed a security pact with the Solomon Islands, according to Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Wang Wenbin. Strategy. It's a move on the chessboard as I see it. Just my take, though. The next thing, this is strategy 2, dare I say, a psychological strategy, rather, in my opinion. I gotta say that for YouTube. Dark MAGA supporters, according to Newsweek, quote, are calling for a ruthless, unforgiving version of Trump to take revenge on his political enemies at the 2024 election, end quote. Look, I'm sure there are extremists that want that. Honestly, honest to God, if I'm being truthful and honest, but as if there aren't extremists everywhere else. So my point is that, again, to me, this speaks to a larger picture of this article seems to just simply want to divide, in my humble opinion, but that to stir emotion, to stimulate energetic bioresonance that is then emitted from the body, and that goes into our main episodes and obviously the member stuff and what have you. But to redirect mass consciousness. Maybe I'm wrong, but again, when I see things like this, it's just headlines of division. Truth be told, regardless of where you stand on that, again, this speaks to a bigger picture of, okay, there's extremists everywhere. What are we going to do? Start taking people's phones away because someone maybe 1 out of 50 million might be an extremist? And I know to play devil's advocate, some of you might say, well, Dave, it's more than 1 in 50 million. I get it, guys. I get it. But it's tough. I'm not saying I have the answer. But the question then becomes, truly, in a good faith way, is the answer censoring more? I don't know. I personally don't agree with it, but doesn't mean that I'm right just because I disagree with it. So I'm just trying to be neutral. I'm not trying to lean in any direction. The next thing is that the UK plans to revoke Moscow's stock exchange's status as a recognized stock exchange. Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs Department announced today. Oh, Jesus Christ. They still call it Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs Department? Holy, I'm sorry to those that are still big into the royal language, but Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs Department, I think that should be more of a headline than what the UK did to Moscow Stock Exchange, because we saw this coming, in my opinion. It's another strategy. Maybe I'm wrong. It's a strategy. The only people that suffer are me, you. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. So, the next thing, let's see here, is that the German health minister and zero COVID advocate Karl Lauterbach claims it would lead to a, quote, massive loss of credibility and endanger democracy, end quote, if Elon Musk buys Twitter. He later deleted the tweet. Okay, let's touch on the Twitter thing. Look, with Elon, in my opinion, I've taken some days to ponder and think about this. In the short term, is Elon sticking a thumb in the eye to the elites, assuming this is not a staged plan, if you will? And I only say that not to be a fringe nut job or anything like that, but we have to consider all possibilities, sadly, and simply because we've been lied to for so long. I'm sorry. What can I say, right? Now, with that being said, you got to have faith at some point somewhere. If not, then what's the use in waking up in the morning as I see it? Maybe that's too much of one spectrum to the other, but point being, in the short term, is Elon buying Twitter as a thumb in the eye? Sure, but in the long term, like to the establishment, sure, but in the long term, it may not be ideal that one person has access to all of our data. With that being said, though, if we take it to a more in real time approach, as I understand it, to fill in very quickly, please forgive me because I'm simply paraphrasing here, but for those that don't know what's going on with Elon Musk, he bought just under 10% of Twitter, or about 10%, and then he was going to be on Twitter's board because he wanted to advocate for less censorship and more free speech, right? And we see, by the way, the former founder and CEO, who's now completely, I believe, sold all of his shares, Jack Dorsey, is now tweeting at CNN, basically saying, you guys don't help either. Seems like he's growing a conscience. Now, some could argue too little, too late, but anyways, Elon Musk buys a nice chunk of the company. He wants to sit on the board. Everyone starts freaking out, yada, yada. The employees do at Twitter. Everyone doesn't want him there because they're like, oh, he's a troll, yada, yada. Even though it's okay for him to build space stuff, but God forbid a troll guy buys a social media. Anyways, that speaks to a larger thing of how we shouldn't be as involved in the online discourse as we are as a species. But anyways, so Elon goes, okay, you guys are complaining. Screw you. I'm going to buy the whole company. What did he do? Wall Street, as if I'm not mistaken, had the Twitter shares valued at $30 a share on average. He offered $54 a share. And Prince Al-Walid, who personally, dare I say, I'm not a fan of, not because of his background, but because of the affiliations of individuals, both on American, British, and all of that, platforms that I'm not a fan of. He's a large shareholder, Prince Al-Walid of Twitter. He refused that offer. Apparently, what's called a poison pill, which now allows for for lawsuits and criminality investigations to occur, if I'm not mistaken, pertaining to Twitter shareholders, can in fact go through because Elon offered way above the asking price, and the shareholders who may have wanted to cash out are now not allowed to. They're going, whoa, we want our money. And when I say shareholders, I mean the average person that maybe has 5, 10 shares in the stock, something like this, or maybe even larger. But you know what I mean. Not necessarily shareholders that sit on the board. But again, I'm sure there's that too. So look, it's a tit for tat game. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Maybe I'm being duped, but I don't. This whole thing of like, is there still a plan behind the scenes? I think there is, but I don't think it's as sophisticated as we thought that these elites had set out. I don't know. This is where I currently stand. I could be very wrong. This now later led, by the way, to Netflix shares plunging over 25% in after-hours trading, projecting to lose 2 million subscribers in the current quarter, simply because, as I understand it, maybe I'm incorrect, but Elon Musk tweeted, quote, that the woke mind virus is making Netflix unwatchable, end quote. So, make of that as you will. A lot of people see, for example, that the people are getting fed up everywhere you look, and you want to, in your personal life, there's pushing of some type of propaganda, and people that even are willing to ignore it can't ignore it because it's so blatant. So this is what I'm gathering, but maybe I'm incorrect, but I certainly understand that perspective. But I also understand the perspective of people that say you should never root for a billionaire to support the average person. I get it. I do get that perspective too, truthfully. Now, the next thing is that the Biden administration is preparing another $800 million in weapons packages for the Ukraine, NBC reports. Again, why you can't put that money into, I don't know, 0 Point Energy, which they already have, but let's just pretend they don't. Again, you can sign that thing in an afternoon, but healthcare, education for the kids, and I'm not trying to take a socialist perspective, but at the same time, I'm really not trying to get political. I just kind of view it as human on human type thing. So, yeah. Again, I have that same question. So, the next thing is that the UK courts have issued an order to extradite WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange to the United States, where he will face a 175-year sentence for publishing American war crimes. The decision will now move to UK Home Secretary Priti Patel for approval. The defense has until May 18th to make submissions. I'm going to leave that there. Simply because, I mean, one can make a strong argument that this is what happens when you expose American, real crimes, not American crimes, real crimes of the elites, not just of the Americans, but of the transnational elites of the world, dare I say. They do their best to put you away in that regard. It's possible, I mean, look, maybe I'm missing a piece of the pie here, of the puzzle. Please feel free to comment below. I'm sorry, but I kind of lose a bit of charisma and excitement when I read that, because I see nothing when I look in the eyes of Assange but suffering, and it's unfortunate. I'm not trying to fearmonger, but I don't know what else to say. The next thing is that N.W.O, the co-leader of Germany's far-left Die Linke, has resigned following multiple suspected cases of sexual assault and sexualized violence within her own party. Make of that as you will. I'm not trying to associate with the left or the right. Just goes to show, regardless of political affiliation, the alleged depravity of those at the top from a human perspective. Let me be very clear. The next thing is that Germany's producer price inflation has jumped to 30.9% in March, the highest level since 1949. I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist, but I dare to say that globally, something manufactured may or may not be coming. I'm going to leave that there so YouTube doesn't nick the video, but the next thing is that China's, and there's stats to substantiate that. Let me be clear. I'm not just pulling shit out of my ass. The next thing is that China's defense ministry demands that the United States to immediately, quote, cease military provocation at sea, end quote, in a phone call, according to Chinese state media. Furthermore, the Chinese defense minister told U.S. Defense Secretary Austin in the phone call that Taiwan is part of China and no one can change that. Yeah. That's, assuming that's what happened on the conversation. Oh, we got a tit-for-tat strategy that it's like walking on eggshells, in my opinion, behind the scenes. I could be wrong, but oof. This is tough, guys. I'm not trying to be an appeaser to China, Russia, or even the West, to be fair. This is tough. Dare I say every party's at fault, if I'm being honest, with their intelligence activities and black operations. And unless I was in that room, guys, I don't want to make a solidified statement on that, truth be told. Now, the final thing is that Israel's central bank has added the Chinese yuan and 3 other currencies to its $206 billion reserves, reducing the allocation for the dollar and the euro, end quote, according to Bloomberg. This makes sense, pertaining to Israel wanting to maybe stay neutral. Again, it's no secret that, of course, Israel has large influence, with banking and all of this, and I don't mean anything nefarious by that whatsoever. Let me be clear for the sake of YouTube. I speak on particularly the regime of individuals, not the Israeli people. There's a big difference. So it's, the pawns are in the midst of being moved, folks. It would be, I think, naive for me to make a speculation like the mainstream media does. One day they say this, the next day they say that, just for views and clicks. It would be, dare I say, irresponsible of me to say to you folks, oh, this is what it is right now and that's it. I don't know. I promise you we will stay updated on all of these developments, which is why, like I said at the beginning, I try my best to sort of narrow out and focus in and hone in on the things that I dare I say we should be focused on. If anyone wants to even focus on the news. But anyways, with that being said, folks, thank you so very much. We have a lot coming, both on the member side and on the public side. But if I'm being brutally honest, far more on the member side than public. But I promise to keep the public as content as I can. And we'll catch you all very, very soon. Cheers.